Hey, welcome back. This is Backyard Bows. I'm Brandon, and today I'm excited to announce that we're going to kind of start shifting gears away from those flagship bows onto what we're calling like a budget bow lineup. And obviously we're starting with none other than Bear Archery. I picked the Alaskan, which we'll talk about in a second. But I think when I was younger and first starting off hunting and shooting bows, I didn't have much money. Every purchase to me was really well calculated. And I always thought, man, I want the best bang for my buck, kind of that ROI bow. And I always did some thorough research into what I was purchasing, because $500 to me was a really lot of money, and it can be to some of you. And it still is a lot of money to me. But as I've gotten older and my companies have grown, I've ventured out and been able to purchase, more flagship bows, kind of more expensive bows. But I do have a ton of experience with the lowest of budget bows that have performed in the field for me for years. And some of those were Bear Archery products. So, and I actually have a couple bows here. This Whitetail 2 is my father's that was passed down to me. I got a Bear Archery recurve right there. And so I went with the Alaskan because I thought, and we're starting off this lineup with the Alaskan because I think this is one of the best bows that you can buy for the price in 2022. $499, I think I got it for like $529, but right around $500. And we'll kind of go over everything, but altogether, I don't think for the price, and maybe equally, but I don't think you can get much better than this. So axle to axle, it's 32 inches, which is right at that middle range length for those bow hunters. Same with the brace height at 6 1/4. It says it's right under 4 pounds, but it's actually right over 4 pounds. And here's some of the things that you'll see from a flagship bow to a budget bow. So usually you get the limb pockets, there'll be a composite limb pocket, but these are actually aluminum, which I love. So you got this plastic on the outside, but the inside is aluminum. And even though they're not bolted in there, they are shaped in a wedge, which makes them in there real tight, preventing them from shifting. Something else that you'll see is usually the cable containment system looks maybe a little bit more similar to this than one with ball bearing rollers. But this is just a piece of plastic that slides on there. And then also obviously your riser is not machined. And so those are the biggest changes from your $1,000 flagship bow down to some of these more budget bows. But for a budget bow, I think this one is one of the best well constructed. So they went with these DHC cams, which they go from 25.5 all the way up to 31.5. They have a 60-pound option and a 70-pound option, which fluctuates 15 pounds. So with this bow, if you're somebody who's beginning bow hunting, maybe a youth hunter that's getting into bow hunting and that wants to maybe grow with their first purchase, this is a perfect bow. You can start at 25.5. It goes all the way down to 45 if you get the 60-pound option. And then as you grow and get bigger, you can change your draw weight and draw length, which I love that. So if you want a bow that you want to stick with for some years, I think this is a perfect bow. So, again, really easy to change your draw length. You actually have the option of a limb stop or a string stop on top. So if you put it on the right side, you have that string stop. But if you take that knob and put it over here on the left side, you can get that nice solid back wall with the limb stop. The riser does have 2 bolts. I love that. Anytime that there's 2 bolts for mounting the rest, I think that is the best way to go. You can just really get that rest on there really nice and sturdy, where in the past we kind of saw one. So there's 3 colors for this bow, only 2 in the left-hand option. I went with the one that you can't get in the left-hand option, which is that throwback. It's black with those, I call it the Fred Bear camo for the limbs, which is like my favorite camo pattern ever. It has the tan strings to match. I love the way this thing looks. So for a budget bow, I think you're getting some of the best quality for the price. So we'll actually do our single shot assessment in here. We'll shoot it. We'll let you know what we think about it. I'm excited to start this whole series off. I'm excited to get some of these cheaper, I don't want to say cheaper, less expensive bows in my hands, which kind of takes me back to some of those beginner days of me hunting, and tagging plenty of deer with bows that might have cost me only 500 bucks. So let's go ahead and we'll do our single shot assessment, and we'll give you some of those first thoughts. I think the IBO rating on this is maybe, 330. So I'm looking to get somewhere between, maybe right around or under 270 with my grain arrow. But again, that's plenty fast, especially if you're doing the hunting I'm doing. So kind of whitetails, 30, 40 yard shots. This thing is the perfect speed to get the job done. So let's go ahead, we'll sling a couple. I actually, from all the bear bows that I looked at online and then went to the store and looked at, I like this one the way it looked the best too. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that Bowtech grip, but it's a little bit thicker and it actually has a little bit of curvature on it, where the Bowtech SR350 was kind of like a block. This actually doesn't feel as bad, but it is just, again, I would add tape to this. I don't like the material, that kind of riser composite material that's on here, but that's just me. It's a nice thickness and it feels good in the hand, but I would want a little grip to it. So, okay. So I like, once I got it back into full draw, man, that feels good in full draw. It's a little bit stiff. I describe it as rigid, but you can kind of feel a grind, on the way back. It's not real smooth. And man, it takes a lot of effort. So even though it's set at 70 pounds, feels like 75, 80, you're exerting a good amount of force to get this thing back. Once you're back though, it holds nice. You can relax. I think it only comes in 80% let off. But once you get set up, it actually holds really nice. So, and the vibration, I would say, would be, if you could rate it on a scale of medium, it's kind of right in that middle. You can feel it, but it's not a discomfort at all. I guess that one, yeah, I mean, you can definitely feel the vibration. I think the best part that I'm getting is the hold. Once you get it set up, it balances nice. I love, it's kind of like in that perfect axle to axle range. The weight distribution is very, very nice. And the draw is getting less and less noticeable to me, even just with a few shots. So again, 500. Well, and we'll see. We'll go outside and do our little freestyle shoot, and we'll see. So again, you got $500 compared to, let's go with the top, the RX-7 from this year, the carbon. It's you got $1,800. So will they both get the job done? Yes. Will they both kill the deer? Yes. Are they both accurate? Yes. So again, that's where you kind of get into how expensive is comfort to you. But to be honest, and I've said this before, that the medium ranged price bows that we will review, I think would outperform flagship bows from 4 or 5 years ago. So keep that in mind. The bows that people were paying $1,000 to $1,200 for 5 years ago, I think this would be performance-wise right in there. Last one. and we'll go outside. I think the biggest thing that's noticeable negatively is the vibration. But you know, if that's not affecting the shot too much, and I guess we'll see when we kind of get outside and sling some arrows on some critters. All around though, like I said from the beginning, this is probably one of the best bang for your bucks bows you can buy. So let's hop outside and let's do one more. Let's hop outside and we'll kind of get to shooting. All right, so now we're on to our little freestyle shoot that we'll do here in the backyard. We have several targets, different depths, different angles. We'll kind of get after them all, probably spend the whole afternoon doing it. We'll do some here on film and then we'll shut them off and we'll really get to shooting before we give this a final grade. So I think if I was to hunt with this, I will probably resell this, so I'm not gonna add any, but if I was to hunt with it, I would put some tape on here. I don't like the material that's on this riser, kind of the material that they used. It's real slick. I feel like if it got wet, you would just be slipping all over the place. It's not that big of an issue because you can simply add some tape for really inexpensive. So I would though with this grip. So let's get to shooting over here. First we'll do turkey, boar, deer, coyote, and then we'll get over to the other side and hit some of those longer shots. Man, I like to draw more and more. There is a little bit of vibration on the shot, but again, you're on this really, you know, your hand's just hitting this really hard riser. There's really no dampening systems on the bow except these blocks that are in between the limbs that are honestly rock hard. So just assessing the bow as it is, you know, I would have guessed that the vibration would be noticeable, and it is. You can feel it pretty good. But with that being said, you know, the opposite is that draw cycle, which is becoming smoother and smoother, and I like it more and more. It is tough to get back. You got to give it some good effort, and it is kind of stiff. You know, and I don't. The only thing that I really see really different about this bow than others is the shape of these limbs are a real weird shape. They get really thick down here at the bottom. You know, I would say it's that the stiffness is just coming from those limbs, but it's tough to draw back. The arrows are coming off here nice, and once you do get it set up, I like the way it holds. One thing I forgot to mention inside is that when you are figuring out your draw length, double check it when you buy it and get it from the bow shop. Because the guy that was doing mine, I told him I was 29.5, and so he put it on 9.5. I think assuming that that was 29.5, but it actually is an inch less. So I have mine on the 8.5 position, which is 29.5, and then when you get up to that 10 is the 31. So be mindful of that too, that draw length fluctuates by 1 going down. So just double check it when you get it from the bow shop, because he actually had mine. I didn't get to draw it back. I just had him set it up, and then I put everything else on while I was here at the house. But he went ahead and put it on 8.5, 9.5, which was 30.5 inches. So we'll put one more shot on that buck, and then we'll move over to that coyote. Getting to shoot what we're calling all these budget bows, the question always comes into mind, are two bows, you know, are these flagship bows really worth double the price? Or is that just where the market has taken us? In other words, are you really getting, you know, for different limb pockets, probably some new technology on the cams, a different cable system, machine riser, are you really getting double the cost, sometimes triple? I'm not so sure. This bow shoots really well. You know, it's very solid. I have no questions that this bow would perform to anybody. I think there's so many other variables that go into a success of a hunt that this bow set up like it is, man, you could be very successful. And I think that's what we're gonna see throughout this entire budget bow cycle, is that these bows perform just as well. You know, and a lot more goes into the shooter and other aspects of your hunt. But if you get one of these bows set up and dialed in, you know, this bow shoots really nice. All right, let's get over. We'll see how it performs on some of these longer shots. But right off of the bat, man, I love this. It's nice and light. I could see myself climbing into a tree stand with this. Like I said at the beginning, I taped that grip up. But man, I like this. I like this a lot. All right, on to my favorite part of the review. I love shooting from over here. So this is my, you know, in the mornings, especially kind of coming out here, I get a cup of coffee, I can sit over here and shoot all day. A couple weeks ago, we had the broadhead buck, which is at 30, then the mama black bear at 40, Paddington 45, and then we'll get up the hill to the elk at 50. So I just mentioned it over there. Performance-wise, you would think that you would see a drastic difference in performance from flagship bows to what I call budget bows. On the performance side, I don't see a huge difference. Where I see it is into the quality and the craftsmanship of the bow. But this bow, performance-wise, man, this bow has been really nice and easy to shoot. You can tell that it's maybe, you know, you give a little bit with your draw cycle not being as smooth, shot cycle, but the hold, you know, it performs just like any other bow. And I think that I've said this before, but the middle priced budget bows in 2022 would outperform flagship bows from 4 or 5 years ago. And that's just my opinion, but let's go black bear. Ooh. So I ordered it, so it's not in for this review, but I ordered a kind of a decimal reader to start measuring how loud bows are, and that's something somebody had requested. One of the viewers in the comments requested that, so you know, we'll be able to tell here in a couple weeks whenever it comes in and on some of those reviews, and we'll start measuring that just to see and be able to compare. But I would say maybe this would be a hair loud too if we were to think of something that was negative. So we'll move up to the elk. You know, add a little bit of grip tape to this grip. I think that would help with that. Maybe even the tape would help with some of that vibration, because man, this really hard material that for the riser, it doesn't seem like it's absorbing much. These, honestly, I don't feel like are doing much either, because you're really feeling it in your hand. A little bit hair loud. Draw cycles loosen it up, kind of nice. Not the smoothest, but it is loosening up a little bit. But other than that, I like the way it shoots. we'll see when we go back inside what it gets on that chronograph, and then we'll kind of put together our first budget bow grade, which will kind of be nice to see kind of where some of these are going to fall in that 100 rating as well. So the back wall, something I haven't really mentioned, you do have to put a good amount of force to kind of keep these back. Not horrible, but I am, right then I kind of noticed it wanted to jump a little bit, and then you kind of hold it in place, but you do have to, keep a good amount of force on that back, pulling back to keep it in full draw. But other than that, man, it's nice. I like it. For 500 bucks, like I said in the beginning, I don't think you can necessarily beat it. And we'll do maybe 5 of these that we have already lined up, anywhere between $500 and $600. The ones that I have kind of sifted through and picked out that I thought would be the best ones to do. But this one, we started with Bear just because Bear Archery, in definition to me, is kind of like the best bang for your buck manufacturers that have ever been, and that's kind of what they've always catered to, is hunters that wanted a good quality product for a good price. So that's where we went. The Bear Alaskan kicked it off with. So let's go inside. We'll see what it gets in the chronograph, and then we'll give it that grade here in a little bit. All right, so now we're back inside. Last piece of the puzzle. We'll put it through the speed test. 29.5, 70 pounds. The only variable that has changed, only because this bow only has an 80% let off instead of what we usually set it at is 85. But I think it'll get somewhere around 270 with my 500 grain arrow, but we'll see. But then after this, we'll have a little fun. I got some new arrows from my other, my recurve bow from Bear, and we'll put those through just to see some difference. But let's see what this gets. All right, 266. We'll put a couple through like we do. 277. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that the first one was less accurate and the second one was accurate. But let's shoot a couple more. 274. And we'll shoot one last one. So 274, 276, 275, and we had that random 266, which I'm just going to go ahead and say that was the chronograph. But let's put this down, we'll get that recurve, and we'll set it back up. So we switched it up. You just saw the Alaskan shoot 276, I think it topped out at 500 grain arrow. We'll shoot it through with this recurve. This arrow is only 440 grains. But you can see the difference in the speed difference. And for those of you out there who put so much emphasis on speed, you'll be able to kind of, it's fun to see this gets the job done. I've killed one doe with a recurve in my entire life. Taken a couple shots, killed one, didn't even penetrate her that far, but I ended up finding her, and I got the job done with it, shot her about 15 yards. But if you get online, you see guys killing all kinds of animals with recurve bows, long bows. So a little bit of, when you're making those decisions, say a longer axle to a shorter axle, but you don't want to sacrifice the 10 feet per second you lose by going to that longer axle. Just remember, comfortability is way more important than speed when you're talking about 10 feet per second, 20 feet per second. And this will show you how fast this is, and just that this can get the job done just as easily. So 143. I don't think I drew it back as far as I could go, so I'll try to get it back as far as I can go while trying to accurately get it through this, but I think I can get up to 150, 155. 152. So that's 440 grains. I'm sure if I got outside, wasn't trying to pencil, get it through this little space and really let one go, I could probably get it up to 165. Let's shoot one more. 152. And we'll do one more. I'll try to really pump one here. 156. So again, a whole 100 and almost 120 feet per second difference. So again, when you're talking about the 10 feet per second, when you're sacrificing a little here and there for comfort, go with the comfort. I promise you it'll pay out in the end. All right, so we've got our first budget bow grade in. So naturally, before I even started grading them, I assumed that some of the flagship bows would probably be maybe low or high 80s, low 90s and above. And then, all the budget bows would fall somewhere in the 80 spectrum, maybe, in the high 70s. And that was just my assumption before I actually started putting numbers to these. So I love that we're transitioning into the budget bows. I think I'm more excited about doing the budget bow lineup than I was the flagship bows. They're fun to shoot, but man, there's something about seeing just how well these perform for, like I said before, half of the price, sometimes a third of the price. So today was great. This is kind of the beginning of the next maybe 5 or 6 bows that we'll do of the budget bows that we selected that we think are good, good bang for your buck. So if you, the viewer, has one in mind that you would like to see, message us, let us know, and we'll try to get a hold of it and add it to that budget bow lineup. But these are the ones that I kind of went through and hand selected, bows that interested me, that I thought were a great price, and then after looking into them, I thought the quality was good. So right off the top, I think the Bear Alaskan maxed out with my 500 grain arrow. I think it got to 276. So that gets the 8 out of 10 for that. And I think that's really nice in a quick speed. 70 pounds. My 500 grain arrow, 29 and a half. 80. I think the only variable that difference with this one was that it only was set to 80% let off, not 85, which is what we usually do. So the quality, that's what one of the reasons why I also started with this. I love the quality of this bow. I think it's really nice and solid. The cams are nice and thick and solid. You got these aluminum limb pockets, which I think that's the one of the best things about this. I love the 15-pound fluctuation from those limb pockets. I think the only thing on it that is extremely inexpensive and what I would say would be cheap would be the cable containment right here. This little plastic piece sliding along that rail. That's the only thing that seems real cheap, and but everything else seems really nice and solid. So for quality, and I think this is a higher grade of quality for a budget bow, but we gave it a 7. So that's kind of peaked out quality budget bow, and again, that's why we also started with this one. So the appeal, I know this is an opinion, so I really don't hit anything too hard. I love the way it looks. I love the Fredbear camo limbs. They had the 3 options. This didn't even come in the left-hand, so they really only had 2 options for both left-handed and right-handed. Very nice, basic, simple look. But I think out of all of Bear's bows, because man, there's some out there that I'm personally not attracted to, this was one of the best looking ones all around to me too. So I gave it an 8 out of 10 for the appeal, which I'm never really going to hit a bow too hard unless it's really funky looking. And I know there's some out there, but you get a good standard riser appeal look to me, then I'll give you somewhere between 8, 9, or 10. The technology that goes into it, very basic. I love that the limb stop can be, or the string stop can be made into a limb stop. You know, again, you got composite riser. I do like the aluminum pocket limbs. The dampening system seems to be non-existent. You know, I gave it a 6 out of 10 for the technology. And then the last grade is the performance. So for a budget bow, I thought the performance was awesome. I gave it an 8 out of 10 for performance. I loved shooting it. I could also see myself in a tree stand with it. Nice and light, held really nicely. There's a little bit of uncomfortableness to the draw cycle, but again, I think that's what you can expect when you're buying, you know, kind of sifting through these budget bows. Is they're not going to be the smoothest, but as long as they perform, I think that's the most important part. So it got a 37 out of 50. We gave it the 3 extra points for being able to get it under $1,000. So that brings it up to 40 out of 50, which gives it that nice round 80 out of 100, which is a perfect grade to start this series off for these budget bows. And you know, if you find things in our videos that you like and that you think are useful and you'd like to see more of them, give the video a like, subscribe to our channel to get updates on you know, the bows that we're going to be releasing in the future. We could potentially get upwards to 40 or 50 bows out in 2022. And then also you can follow us on Instagram, which we give kind of sneak peeks at things that we're going to do next, and different pieces of equipment besides bows that are going to be in our, you know, in the near future. So above all, don't buy a bow off a single bow review. Make sure you get your reps in, and we'll see you next Saturday.